Good morning. Woo-hoo-hoo. Welcome to MVUU. Welcome to everyone who is physically present here in our beautiful sanctuary, and welcome to those of you who are joining us remotely, perhaps from cooler climes. Whoever you are and wherever you are welcome here. I ask those of you who are sitting here to second that welcome by turning around and waving to the camera, sending your love to those who can see us on their screens, and getting some back. We are so glad that you are here, all of you. We are better and we are stronger because we are here together. I'm Deborah Roberts, the Pastoral Associate assisting in today's service. I also want to acknowledge our music director, Chris Tackett, and our AV crew back there today. We have Todd and Lee McNeely and Dan Ovid, and at the camera we have Vince. Okay. I also want to acknowledge our greeters and our hospitality crew who do such a great job of welcoming you. Thank you for all of the things that you do to make today run smoothly and to add to our enjoyment. Today is a landmark day in the history of MVUU. Do you know why? Well, I'll tell you. Today, we officially welcome the Reverend Matthew Funk Crary to the pulpit as our settled minister, only the third person to hold that title in the history of MVUU. Along with Matthew, we also welcome Stephanie, Magnus, Robin, Elliot, and Emily. Please give them a warm welcome. And by the way, we just hung portraits of all of the ministers who have served MVUU in Covenant Hall to the left of the door to the minister's office. Be sure to take a moment to check that out today, and that is all Reverend Christiana Haida's artwork, and she's here today. This is an exciting time as we re-enter the experience of having a full-time minister whose tenure is open-ended, and Reverend Matthew today begins a new mission here at MVUU. He's already quite familiar with our congregation through Pulpit Palooza and things like that, but he is re-entering it today in a different role and with a different level of commitment. We also extend the invitation to re-enter our world, our culture, and our society, our surrounding community, and indeed our own lives as we strive to live our UU values. We will offer the opportunity to look at things a little differently, perhaps with the advantage of distance, of space. Reverend Matthew has heard repeatedly as he has met with us during candidating week, and since he has begun talking with committees and individuals, he's heard how some of us feel that we do not really understand or perhaps have not yet internalized our relatively new mission statement. His mission this month is to lead us to a higher level of engagement with our mission statement. Subsequent services this month will explore the three branches of our mission statement, which are engage, love, and transform. So as we blast off into the as yet unknown frontier of space in our shared ministry, may we all be engaged in a deeper exploration of our mission.
In gratitude, we commit ourselves to open-hearted engagement, courageous love, inspiring transformation. Our mission at MVUU: build an open-hearted, welcoming community where we work together in covenant to transform ourselves and our world through love. Together, we will nurture our Unitarian Universalist faith identity, teach it to our children, and live it courageously in the world. Create space and support to develop authentic connections to each other's lives. Give and receive care to and from one another. Risk vulnerability to create covenantal relationships across all kinds of difference within the congregation and beyond its walls. Bring more love and justice to the world in covenant with impacted people. Develop life-sustaining spiritual practices.
The passage that you are about to hear was written by Laurel Clark, one of the astronauts who died in the Columbia explosion in 2003. Laurel was a Unitarian Universalist who attended the Olympia Brown Church in Racine, Wisconsin. As she wrote this piece, she was looking down at Earth from her vantage point in space, and you will hear her mention Wisconsin. Some of you may remember that she was the daughter of Marjorie and Dick Brown, members of this church, who themselves were killed in a tragic car accident just about 3 years ago. Marge always traveled with an emotional support dog whose name is Orion. I knew Marge best from our choir rehearsals, where we often sat together with sweet Orion at our feet. Sadly, Orion was also killed in the accident. In this passage I am about to read, Laurel mentions the constellation Orion, which seems to have a special meaning to her. I'm sure the dog was named Orion because of this. This is Laurel Clark's vision. Hello from above our magnificent planet Earth. The perspective is truly awe-inspiring. This is a terrific mission, and we are very busy doing science around the clock. Just getting a moment to type an email is so precious, so this will be short and distributed to many I know and love. I have seen some incredible sights. Lightning spreading over the Pacific, the aurora australis lighting up the entire visible horizon with the city glow of Australia below, the crescent moon setting over the limb of our blue planet, the vast plains of Africa and the dunes on Cape Horn, rivers breaking through tall mountain passes, the scars of humanity, and the continuous line of life extending from North America through Central America and into South America. Mount Fuji looks like a small bump from up here, but it does stand out as a very distinct landmark. Magically, the very first day we flew over Lake Michigan, and I saw Wind Point, Wisconsin, clearly, I haven't been so lucky since. Every orbit we go over a slightly different part of the Earth. Of course, much of the time I'm working back in Space Lab and don't see any of it. Whenever I do get to look out, it is glorious. Even the stars have a special brightness. I have seen my friend Orion several times. Thanks to many of you who have supported me and my adventures throughout the years. This was definitely one to beat all. I hope you could feel the positive energy that beamed to the whole planet as we glided over our shared space. Love to all, Laurel Clark, Captain Laurel Clark, Mission Specialist, Space Shuttle, written on February 1st, 2003.
Our responsive reading, We Remember Them, links our magnificent planet Earth, its awe-inspiring beauty, and dynamic activity that Laurel witnessed to those beloveds who have died. Now, the words will be projected, and when they are, I'll read the first sentence of each couplet, and in response, I invite all of you here in person and present online to read the second in italics. At the end of each pair of sentences, we will pause, and Debbie will silently light a candle. The first pause and candle will be for Captain Laurel Clark. The next two will be for Marjorie and Richard Brown, and then one for Orion, their dog. We will end with Debbie lighting a final candle for our many beloveds, our friends and our family and our companions that we have known and loved and lost. And then we, here and virtually, will speak aloud the names of those on our minds and in our hearts, upholding our spirits, who we will always remember. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them.
In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. And when we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them.
So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us, as we remember them.
I invite you, I invite you now to a time of meditation, of breathing gently in and out, of being present to your body, your place of dignity. Our space of community. And this moment in history. our earth holds us. Our species birthed here, our humanity reflected in its wholeness. And here, at the end of our lives, we will die. There is a solace, a comfort, a peace that comes in imagining the earth embracing the completeness of our lives. That emerging and evolving we have been nurtured in, we have been protected by, within the earth's enduring systems. And so it is when our time comes to pass, our bodies return to the body of the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And so it is when we experience loss of a loved one, our painful distress, our grief and mourning is often consoled by that enduring relationship. At those times, remembering that all of us are a part of the cycles of earth, it offers us a feeling, Sophilia. Sophilia. It is the solace in tough times that comes through our growing awareness of our interdependence with our planet. So I invite you then, in the midst and motion of our lives, to open your hearts and feel the comfort and the courage of Sophilia. Imagine, if you will, our blue-green planet looking back from outer space as if you are orbiting like an astronaut. Envision, if you would, the place where you were born. The place where you have traveled, the many places you have been. Wild and untrampled or carefully cultivated, recall the world as it has held you. Open to the embrace of the earth and feel that you are home. In this moment, within this community, rest in your body, rest in your dignity, and breathe. And be held. I invite you now to a time of contemplation, of considering and pondering our interdependence with the whole of our blue-green earth. Astronauts like Unitarian Universalist Captain Laurel Clark have long shared what it is to look back, to drift above, and to see our world, to behold the curve of our planet, the world without divides or divisions, and to be aware that we are deeply connected to it, dependent upon it. These sharings have always inspired comfort and wonder in me. Astronomer and cosmologist Carl Sagan, well, he went a little bit further, quite a bit further, 3.7 billion miles further, to gaze back at our home. It was Sagan who requested in 1990 that Voyager 1 space probe, as it was drifting out of our solar system, be turned around to take one last image and send it back to us. It's called the pale blue dot. We are that dot, just off center to the right. And if you don't see it yet, we'll show you where it is. Pale blue dot is the same name of Carl Sagan's book in which he writes, "It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known." He reminded us then of just how frail our home is, a truth that we are living and feeling into today, as we are alive in a time where we do find comfort in our interdependence with the earth, and we understand that the systems that sustain us are under threat. And that reality of our interdependence and the threat to our very lives brings about the feeling of solastalgia. Solastalgia is the companion word to soliphilia, both coined in 2005 by Glenn Albrecht, an Australian environmentalist, philosopher, and activist. Albrecht says solastalgia is the homesickness you have when you are still at home, as the world around you is being degraded, the climate disrupted, and your local environment destroyed. Just last month, the journalist Madeleine Ostander wrote about the emergence of solastalgia in her article, "The Era of Climate Change Has Created a New Emotion." And she retells the story of a physician named David Eisenman and how he stumbled across the idea of solastalgia when he was interviewing survivors of the 2011 Willow Fire, the largest wildfire on record in Arizona. Over and over, he heard the people he spoke to express the sense that they were grieving for the landscape like a loved one. He and his team found that it was the more uneasy they felt about the landscape itself, the more at risk they were for other kinds of psychological distress. Solastalgia is not a nostalgic feeling of wishing to turn back the clock and return to an ideal but imaginary past. Solastalgia is our present mourning. It is our grief and our fear and our anger and our confusion at the loss of our home right now. So I invite you to breathe in and breathe out with me. Shh. Breathe in and breathe out. Because our feeling of solastalgia grows as we advance our awareness of our interdependence, and as we understand the damage to the systems that sustain life on our planet. And it feels bleak. There is a comfort that we receive from the earth when we are distressed and dying. Soliphilia. And soliphilia is not just a one-way street. If we are truly interdependent with each other, but with this planet, and I know deep, deep in my bones that we are, solastalgia is our awareness of the distress of our world as the planet seeks comfort from us. As the planet seeks comfort from us. Just think of that for a moment, that our home planet, that pale blue dot in the void of space, with its life-sustaining systems in peril, is seeking solace from us. It needs the care and the comfort of each of the 7.7 billion people alive today. And far from a solution. This is an opening of our hearts, an invitation to courageous love, and perhaps it is the means of transforming ourselves and of healing our world. Chris.
Knew I was forgetting to grab something.
Yeah. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, thank you, Matthew. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
I have a question for you.
Certainly.
It may not be the one you expect.
There was the one you asked me to research earlier. Is this a different one?
We'll get to that one. But let's start with, when was it that you first heard Space Oddity, that song?
It was written more or less when I was 3. It's one of those songs that's kind of always been a part of my consciousness, awareness. I don't know that I can recall a time, this is the first time I heard that song, because it's one of those songs that's just always been there.
Yeah.
Always been in my life. And it would be hard, I can't begin to say when was the first time I heard it. I didn't listen to a lot of that kind of music when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really super aware of it as a song until maybe the last 20 years. But, and then particularly after the death of its creator a few years ago now, I certainly became much more aware of it then. But yeah, I can't really say when was the first time I heard it.
Yeah, for me it was probably the MTV years. Yeah.
That's
Videos
probably somewhere in there.
Exposed to some of the classic psychedelic rock songs, like this one by David, is it Bowie or Bowie?
That's the question you asked me to look up, and oh my, did I fall down a giant rabbit hole. The truth is, any of them work just fine. He was born David Richard Jones in the middle 40s. He started to perform as a very young man in the early middle 60s, and he started using David Jones. Well, there was another Davy Jones of the Monkees that he didn't want to be confused with, so he started performing as Tom Jones. And then somebody else he found was using that name as well, too. So he was fond of a lot of the American West mythos, so he named himself after the creator and person behind the Bowie knife. And so he always said, and there's many, many clips of him, audio and video clips of him saying, "Hello, my name is David Bowie." And then somebody later on pointed out that Jim Bowie pronounced it Bowie. And then later on, he noticed that several of his British countrymen were saying Bowie. And in a very interesting interview in the late 80s, he was quoted as saying something along the lines of, "For years I said Bowie. I occasionally say Bowie now, but honestly, as a performer, I don't care how you say it, so long as you say it."
Thank you. Thank you. This psychedelic rock song is based on Bowie interest in the film 2001: Space Odyssey. You may recall that it narrates the story of a fictional astronaut, Major Tom, on his trip to outer space through the communications that he has with ground control. Starting off with his preparation, take your protein pills and put your helmet on, the launch then of the rocket, and then the orbiting 100,000 miles above the Earth. Major Tom relays back, "Tell my wife I love her very much. She knows." And then, seeing the state of the Earth, says the planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. Expressing disillusionment with the music industry and the drug addictions that he was witnessing in the late 1960s, David Bowie ends Space Odyssey with Major Tom blissfully drifting away into outer space. I re-entered our world as part of my treatment for long COVID. Over several months, I began longer and longer walks through my neighborhood, and I began to seek out the colors of the rainbow, reds and oranges, yellows and greens, blues, indigos, violets. I stopped by creosote bushes and I rubbed their leaves in the palms of my hands and inhaled. And I walked barefoot in the grass with my eyes closed. And I laid down on our earth and I was held. I did all of this and a few other peculiar practices as I healed through 9 months of long COVID. I had tested positive just before Thanksgiving in 2020, and if you recall, that was a period before vaccines and boosters. And my symptoms were flu-like, as were Stephanie's and Wes and Elliot and Grayson and Robin and Magnus. They had nearly no symptoms at all. And I'm grateful that just after a week, the impact of the virus ended for them. But I had a lingering fogginess and forgetfulness that was at times overwhelming. And I also had some odd visual and auditory quirks that persisted and persisted and persisted. My relief that none of us had to be hospitalized collapsed into the unknown of long COVID. Because nothing was really understood then, and there's really not much that we know now. I mean, why did I get lingering effects from the virus while my family did not? Why did I have ongoing brain fog, but not other troubles like physical fatigue? Why did long COVID last 9 months for me while it has been observed for much shorter periods for others, or much, much more persistent long periods for some? Well, the general consensus today is that the virus can, and it does, cross into the brain and affect our neurological processes. Or, as the physician who was treating me stated, there are parts of your brain that COVID has fried, to use a medical term. She went on to speculate that whenever I attempted to use these fried parts of my brain that I had, as I had before I was sick, I would encounter mental fatigue and a few other unusual sensory experiences, such as a distracting enchantment with light reflecting off of water. Or odder still, a fascination with the music of the Rolling Stones. I did not enjoy them before this, but I continue to today. She predicted that my fried neurons needed to rest and new mental pathways needed to be found. And I'm certain that I could not have done it without the help of Dr. Alex Watkins, my physician, Reverend Arvid Straube, my spiritual director, or Stephanie, my partner and budding herbalist. This small group had a mission: help me heal. And even with their support and their love, there were, of course, no guarantees. There was such a mystery around long COVID, and there could have even been some risks. We just didn't know. We had no concept if any of our approaches would succeed. And that made every day challenging and frightening and painful and humbling. Most of the time, I felt both interdependent and isolated. I felt bound to millions of human beings through a microscopic virus, and yet distanced from everyone else because I could no longer trust my mind as I used to. I felt as if I was in orbit, the world stretching out before me with no divides or borders. And at my back, the empty void, with no certain means to re-enter. Gratefully, over time, and by the treatments of my team, I learned to ride the waves of mental fogginess until they receded forever. But that experience of feeling in orbit, distant yet dependent, didn't go away. And it has not gone away because it existed well before COVID and the pandemic. It is how I have felt most of my adult life, how I feel now, and I believe it's how many of us feel most of the time. As we are integrated into a planet with life-giving systems embraced by the dynamics of flora and fauna, and often blessed with family and friends from birth to death, but we are separated, divided by systems that we have created in our folly of human conceits, as Carl Sagan puts it. Our economic, political, social, and cultural systems, they do function, and very well, to keep us independent and isolated, while at the same time degrading the very systems that support life. Do you feel it? We are comforted by our interdependence at the same time that we know the pain of our planet, suffering from the systems that we are caught up perpetuating. We are stuck in between in an ineffectual orbit. We yearn, I yearn, and I imagine you do too, for that reconnection while we witness destruction and the feeling that we cannot affect change. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. And in this orbit, addiction is easy. Distractions that dull our awareness and our pain offer us increasingly distant bliss, and they are all too available. They need not be drugs or alcohol that Bowie wrote about. They can be as simple as a smartphone. And I carry it, and I will tell you, I am way too distracted by this. And what's hard, what's challenging, and what's risky is that re-entry. Getting down to earth again and changing our minds and hearts to let go of those systems of disintegration and finding new ways of being together. Recovering relationships that flow and move with the sustainable and life-giving ones. And if this were easy, we would be doing it already. It would be right here in my pocket next to my smartphone. It's hard, and it's challenging, and it's frightening, and it's humbling. You You see, from my experience of long COVID, I know it's not impossible. Letting go and falling out of orbit can work when there are people with a focused mission guiding you home. You don't have to drift away. We can together hear the call of our planet in distress, and that doesn't mean free falling alone, because we know the dangers of that. We can re-enter together. Our mission at MVUU is to build an open-hearted, welcoming community where we work together in covenant to transform ourselves and our world through love. Or the short version, which most of us are wearing when we get our official name tag: engage, love, transform. This is the mission control of the people of this church guiding us home. I first heard these words while struggling with long COVID, just after you all had drafted them and posted that video from them back in the spring of 2021. And in those words, I heard you call us to re-entry. Call us back against that possibility of just remaining in orbit, alienated and alone, or drifting away from it all through our addicting distractions. I heard the call of a people, knowing the comfort of our interdependence and feeling the suffering of our planet and all of its beings with our hearts and our spirits. And I felt it then. And I do now, that there is a people right here willing to take the risk to re-enter and reconnect and renew our belonging to the world. Engage, love, transform. And that is why I choose to be here. And I invite you to join me on this journey. Because re-entry is a risky business, have no doubt. There are no certainties, perhaps no solutions to the problems that we are facing. But there is, in this moment of history, there is the call of a community to re-enter our world and to live with dignity. For the earth we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to the blue-green hills of earth. May it be so, because we choose it to be so. Amen. Please rise if you're willing and able, at home as well. Thank you. Please be seated. Engage, love, transform. This is our mission. Now, mission statements like this, they name the purpose of institution. And statements of purpose for faith communities, they name the institution's soul. Engage, love, transform. Over the following Sundays of this month, we will explore the soul of our faith community as our collective means for re-entry into our world through embodiment, solidarity, and liberation. Of course, this is only our beginning. It's only one means for exploring the soul of our congregation. We explore it in many ways. We recently had a wedding. One was here. A congratulations to Jacob and Cesar. We recently had a memorial for Richard Jacobs. We have our celebrations and our mournings, even celebrations like today is Peter's 76th birthday. As our church year gets underway, we will be sharing programs and events and opportunities and possibilities for you to engage and love and transform. One opportunity that we have enjoyed for many years is Woven Baskets, a collection we take for our community partners. Each month, we select one partner, and all of the Sundays of that month, we take up a collection in the woven baskets outside those doors for that partner. This month, our collection is for UU the Vote. They believe that when we organize, we build power in our communities for justice and accountability and, yes, healing. In the last 2 years, UU the Vote has built new networks of spiritual and political communities for hashtag Vote Love and hashtag Defeat Hate. UU the Vote 2022 is organizing on state and local levels to fight for fair elections, advancing voting rights, protecting abortion access, and resisting the targeting and criminalization of Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. If you would like to support UU the Vote with a donation of your money, please just put something in the woven basket outside the doors as you go into the Oasis this morning. But if you'd like to donate your time, please talk with me, and we will get you connected with UU the Vote here in Arizona. Engage, love, and transform. This is our mission and is our soul.
As we leave this space of calm and reflection today, may we re-enter our daily lives with a renewed sense of commitment to our mission and to our UU values.